This is a dramatized story inspired by real debt situations. For educational and entertainment purposes only. Not legal or financial advice.
The certified letter arrived on a Tuesday. It said I had 30 days before the bank would begin foreclosure proceedings on the house I'd lived in for 11 years. I was 43 years old, and I owed $88,000 in back payments, penalties, and fees I could barely even explain. I didn't tell my kids that night. I made dinner, helped with homework, and after they went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table and read that letter 4 more times, like the words might change. My name is Dana. I'm a high school history teacher in suburban Ohio. I've been teaching for 16 years. I coach the debate team. I genuinely love my job, but loving your job and being able to pay your bills are 2 completely different things. And for about 3 years, I confused the 2. Let me back up and show you exactly how this happened, because I don't think my story is that unusual. I think a lot of people are 1 or 2 bad months away from the same letter I got on that Tuesday. In 2019, my husband Marcus and I were doing okay. Not great, but okay. I was bringing home about $52,000 a year after taxes. Marcus drove for a regional freight company and cleared about $61,000. We had a mortgage on a 3-bedroom house we bought in 2012 for $187,000. Our monthly payment was $1,340. We had 2 car payments totaling $890 a month. We had about $14,000 in credit card debt spread across 3 cards, but we were making payments. We weren't saving much, but we weren't drowning either. Then 2020 hit. Marcus's freight company cut routes. His hours got slashed almost in half for about 7 months. We went from $113,000 combined household income to somewhere around $74,000. And for a family with our fixed expenses, that gap was catastrophic. The first thing we did was stop saving entirely. Then we started putting groceries on the credit card. Then utilities. Then we missed 1 mortgage payment because we genuinely could not cover it and eat that month. The bank offered a forbearance program, which sounded like a lifeline. What I didn't fully understand at the time, and this is important, was that forbearance means pause, not forgive. Those months don't disappear. They stack up, and eventually they're all due. Marcus got his hours back in early 2021. We thought we were recovering, but the credit card balances had grown while we were in survival mode. We now owed $27,000 across 4 cards. The minimum payments alone were eating $680 a month, and the mortgage servicer wanted a lump sum repayment plan for the missed months, 6 payments worth nearly $8,000, added to our regular monthly bill. We tried. We really tried. We refinanced one of the cars to lower the payment. I picked up tutoring on weekends. Marcus took extra runs whenever he could. But the credit card interest was compounding faster than we could pay it down, and our credit score, which had been around 710, had dropped to 591. That FICO Score drop meant we couldn't qualify for any kind of low-interest consolidation loan. Every door we tried to open required a credit score we no longer had. By the spring of 2022, Marcus and I were fighting every single night. Not big, dramatic arguments, small, exhausting ones, about a $20 grocery decision, about whether to answer the phone, about which bill to pay and which one to let slide for another 2 weeks. That kind of fighting, the kind that doesn't end in a blow-up. It ends in silence. In 2 people who used to talk about everything, just sitting across from each other at dinner and having nothing left to say. The collection calls started that summer. First, it was the credit cards. 3, 4, sometimes 5 calls a day from numbers I didn't recognize. I started letting everything go to voicemail. There's something uniquely degrading about hearing a collection agency message. It's not angry. It's calm and administrative, which somehow makes it worse. This is an attempt to collect a debt. Please call us back at your earliest convenience. Earliest convenience? Like I had a convenient moment anywhere in my life. I stopped opening mail. I'm not proud of that. I'd grab the stack from the mailbox and put it in a drawer in the kitchen without looking at it. Marcus knew I was doing it. He didn't stop me because he was doing the same thing with the email. We were both just, waiting. Hoping that if we didn't look at it directly, it would somehow become less real. Our daughter Kayla was 12 that year. She started asking why we didn't go to her cousin's birthday party in Cincinnati, why we didn't do anything for spring break, why the heat was set so low. I told her we were being careful with money. She nodded and didn't ask again, and that hurt more than any collection call ever could. A 12-year-old knowing not to ask questions is not a sign of a healthy household. In August of 2022, Marcus lost his job. Not a layoff this time. The company folded, declared bankruptcy, gave 2 weeks' notice on a Friday afternoon, and just like that, we went from barely treading water to fully underwater. Here's where I made my worst decisions, and I want to be honest about them because I think a lot of people in this situation make the same ones. First, I took out a payday loan, $1,500 to cover the mortgage that month. The fee was $195 for a 2-week loan. That's an annualized interest rate of over 300%. I told myself it was just once. It was not just once. Second, I did a balance transfer to a new credit card that offered 0% for 12 months. It seemed smart at the time. I moved $9,000 onto it, but I didn't stop using the original cards, so I now had more credit card debt total, not less. And I had no realistic plan for when the 0% period ended. Third, and this one I still carry a lot of guilt about, I withdrew $11,000 from my teacher retirement account. I knew there was a penalty. I knew I'd owe taxes on it, but I was in panic mode, and that money was sitting there, and I needed to make something stop hurting right now. What I didn't fully calculate was that the 10% early withdrawal penalty plus the income taxes I'd owe meant I actually netted about $7,800 from an $11,000 withdrawal, and it only bought us about 4 months. By January 2023, the mortgage was 5 months behind. The forbearance agreement we'd signed had conditions we couldn't meet. Our total credit card debt was now $34,000. We still owed $9,200 to the IRS for the retirement account taxes. Marcus had found part-time work doing deliveries, but we were at maybe 60% of what we needed to cover our minimum obligations, let alone anything else. The certified letter came in March, that Tuesday night, after the kids were asleep. I finally opened the drawer in the kitchen. I pulled out every envelope I hadn't opened for the past 6 months, and I made myself read every single one. And I did the math, really did it for the first time, on a legal pad on the kitchen table. Mortgage arrears, $18,400 mortgage remaining balance, $141,000 credit cards, $34,000 personal loan, $8,200 IRS tax debt, $9,200 car loan, $17,800 total, $228,600 in total obligations, of which about $88,000 was the immediate crisis, the stuff that was in collection, overdue, or at risk of legal action right now. I wrote that number down, $88,000. And I sat there and I looked at it, and for the first time in 2 years, instead of panic, I felt something almost like clarity, because the number was real now. It wasn't a vague feeling of dread. It was a number. Numbers can be worked with. I didn't sleep that night, but I did something I hadn't done in months. I started researching. I found the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, the NFCC, which is a nonprofit network of credit counseling agencies. I made an appointment for that Thursday. It was free. I didn't know free financial counseling existed. I had assumed anything involving the words debt relief would cost money I didn't have. The counselor's name was Yvonne. She was calm, professional, and she had clearly heard every version of this story before. She did not make me feel stupid. She asked for a complete picture of all our income, all our debts, all our expenses. She took about 45 minutes just gathering information before she said anything evaluative. Then she laid out our actual options. She said the first thing I needed to understand was that we had 2 separate problems happening simultaneously. We had a foreclosure timeline problem, which was urgent and time-sensitive, and we had a general debt load problem, which was serious but slightly more manageable in terms of timeline. They required different solutions, and I needed to not confuse them. For the foreclosure specifically, she said there were a few paths. The mortgage servicer was legally required to review us for loss mitigation options before completing a foreclosure. That included loan modification, repayment plans, and something called a forbearance agreement, different from what we'd had before, more structured. She strongly recommended I contact a HUD-approved housing counselor, which is specifically trained for foreclosure situations and is also free. She gave me the number for the HOPE hotline, 1-888-995-4673. I wrote it down. For the broader debt situation, she walked me through several options without pushing any of them. Debt consolidation, combining multiple debts into a single loan with a lower interest rate. The problem for us was our credit score. At 579 by that point, we would not qualify for a favorable consolidation loan. We'd likely get rates of 24 to 29%, which would not actually help. Debt management plan through a credit counseling agency. The agency negotiates with creditors on your behalf to reduce interest rates, and you make one monthly payment to the agency, which distributes it. This does not reduce the principal you owe. It can take 3 to 5 years. It's not a quick fix, but it's also not as legally significant as bankruptcy. This option made sense for some of our credit card debt. Debt settlement. Negotiating to pay a lump sum less than the full balance. She was direct with me here. Debt settlement companies often charge high fees. It devastates your credit score, and the forgiven debt is typically taxable income, which is what creates that unexpected IRS bill that catches so many people off guard. Bankruptcy. She explained there are 2 main types relevant to our situation. Chapter 7 is a liquidation bankruptcy. Most unsecured debts, credit cards, medical bills, personal loans, can be discharged, meaning eliminated. The process typically takes 3 to 6 months. However, Chapter 7 does not automatically stop foreclosure permanently. It creates an automatic stay, which temporarily halts it, but a secured lender can petition to lift that stay. And you cannot keep the house through Chapter 7 unless you're current on the mortgage and can continue payments. For someone trying to keep their home, Chapter 7 alone is usually not the answer. Chapter 13, she explained, is reorganization. You keep your assets, including your home, but you enter a 3 to 5 year repayment plan supervised by the bankruptcy court. The critical difference for our situation, Chapter 13 has a specific mechanism called mortgage arrears cure. It allows you to catch up on missed mortgage payments over the life of the plan, spread out over 3 to 5 years, rather than coming up with the full lump sum immediately. If you complete the plan, you are caught up on your mortgage and most remaining unsecured debts are discharged. For someone trying to stop a foreclosure and keep their home, Chapter 13 is often the most powerful tool available. But Yvonne was careful to say, and I want to repeat this because I think it's important, that she was a credit counselor, not a bankruptcy attorney, and that I needed to consult a licensed bankruptcy attorney to understand whether Chapter 13 was appropriate for our specific situation. That consultation, she said, is often free or very low cost. She also told me something I didn't know. Filing even the paperwork for Chapter 13 bankruptcy immediately triggers the automatic stay, which legally stops all collection actions, including foreclosure, from the moment of filing, not from when it's approved, from the moment you file. I left that meeting with 2 phone numbers, a clearer understanding of our situation than I'd had in 2 years, and something I hadn't expected to feel. Options. Not guarantees, not a magic solution, but actual, concrete options that real people in real situations like mine had actually used. Marcus and I talked that night for the first time in months. Really talked. I showed him the legal pad with all the numbers. I walked him through what Yvonne had explained. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Why didn't we do this 6 months ago?" And I didn't have a great answer except shame. We were both ashamed. And shame had cost us 6 months of options. We called a bankruptcy attorney the next morning. Many bankruptcy attorneys offer a free initial consultation, and this one did. He reviewed our situation and confirmed that we were likely candidates for Chapter 13 given that our primary goal was to keep the house. He explained the process in detail, walked us through the means test, and gave us a realistic picture of what a repayment plan might look like given Marcus's current reduced income. He also made something clear that I want to pass along. The sooner you file, the more options you have. Waiting until the day before a foreclosure sale significantly limits what the court can do. The automatic stay still applies, but there are fewer remedies available. Timing matters enormously in these situations. We are not of this story. I want to be honest about that. We filed for Chapter 13 in April. The automatic stay stopped the foreclosure clock. We have a confirmed repayment plan. It's tight. I won't pretend otherwise. But every month we make that payment, we are 1 month closer to being current on the mortgage we've lived in for 11 years, and 1 month further from the feeling of reading that certified letter on a Tuesday night. Kayla doesn't know the details. She's 13 now. But last weekend she asked if we could go to her cousin's birthday party in Cincinnati this summer, and I said yes, and I meant it. If there is one thing I want you to take from this story, just one, it's that shame is the most expensive thing you will ever carry. It cost me 6 months of options that I cannot get back. The numbers on a legal pad are not a judgment of your character. They are just numbers, and numbers can be worked with. If you are in any version of this situation, behind on your mortgage, drowning in credit card debt, ignoring the mail, not answering the phone, please, before you do anything else, call the HOPE hotline or find an NFCC-certified credit counselor. It's free, it's confidential, and it might show you a door you didn't know existed. Always consult a licensed financial or legal professional before making any decisions about your specific situation. Every case is different, and what worked for my family may not be the right path for yours. Get the free debt checklist in the description. Link below.